Hi, I'm Luke Woolsey, and for the past 17 years, I've been a general contractor, a small business owner, and a San Diego real estate investor. I started this show to connect with people, share stories and experiences so that we can learn from each other and build each other up. Welcome to another episode of Building Up. Today's guest is the president of Global Business Solutions.
Did you just make up that name?
Global Business. Is that not right? Global G.
Let me just help you. It's the wrong first word. If that
Markful.
helps. Yeah.
Oh, you're not?
I mean, you could say graphic business solutions, but
Graphic?
we're not global business solutions.
I wish you guys were global. Okay.
I wish.
Wait, where?
Global sounds pretty cool, I would have to say.
Okay. Today's guest is the president of Markful, a good friend of mine, Josh Hamilton.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun to chat about whatever we're going to chat about.
Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dang, Trent, I screwed that one up, man.
I forgot that that's what it was called. That worked there for some reason.
My bad, dude. You'd think I'd know the name of your business.
It's all right. We only share walls with each other.
Yes.
So
I've only been working on projects for your company for the last 10 years now. I mean, my bad. So
It's all good.
It's not global. It's graphic, but it's not even graphic. It's Markful.
it's Markful. Markful is the main brand.
Okay.
The house of brands, graphic business solutions for sure. But Markful is really the main thing that we're trying to push and grow right now. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the distinction is interesting for me because I know that it's like it's a sister company of its parent company, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I would say that the way that we created a bunch of our brands was based off of product needs. And because we're a production company, manufacturing company that is producing products for our customers, it was surrounding the idea of how do we just put up a product on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think, for us being a 30-year-old company, we were in that time where putting up your product's name in the URL or in the brand itself made you legitimate and made customers trust you right away. And so for us, we're trying to move into a new way where trust is so important now with the customer. And so we're trying to build a brand that has trust and loyalty and all these different things that we want. And so we created a brand that would encompass really the why and the idea behind what we're doing and not just the what that we were doing.
Okay. So in terms of how it connects and offers its products and services, it's very different than the parent company then.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that GBS was really about manufacturing and just getting things done.
Yep.
And now Markful for us, we mainly serve in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
And we produce branded products for real estate agents, real estate companies, all that kind of stuff, and a bunch of other businesses as well. So business cards, signage, apparel,
Yeah.
Magnets has been one of the things we've done for a long time as well.
Yeah.
So it's really just helping the market. It's helping the companies brand themselves. It's helping, office managers and all that kind of stuff with basic needs, letterhead, envelopes, all that kind of stuff. So we become really a solution for those companies. So that way we, when they think custom printing, when they think something branded, they think of us and they come to us and we're that partner with them and that expert on the print side that's able to help them. And they get to do what they do best, which is go sell homes or build up their brand, whatever the thing is that they're doing.
So is that what's the meaning behind Markful?
Yeah. So Markful, we started 2.5 years ago now, and part of the meaning behind that was being able to help companies make their mark.
Yeah. Through their brand.
Yeah. And so Mark was kind of a fun play on words for helping companies make their mark, but also we're putting their mark onto our products as well. And then we also get to play with this using the suffix full. And so we're trying to help make people, whatever that impact or that mark is that they're trying to make on the world, we're trying to help them and amplify them, whether it's making it beautiful, making your company fruitful, making your company, whatever is that full kind of word that we do. So we get to have some fun marketing campaigns around that as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us a little bit about just a brief overview of your upbringing background and then kind of how you got into this.
Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, California, here, where we're having this show, and for me, I didn't have a super specific passion growing up that I was like, I want to be this when I grow up. I think the closest thing I could say was like a professional soccer player when I was like 4 or 5, type of thing.
Yeah.
So nothing specific really like came to me. I gravitated towards video and content and design and all that kind of stuff, and kind of went through college up in Azusa Pacific in the LA area, and ended up falling into doing wedding videos and then working for a production company and then working for an agency, and just kind of fell into the marketing world
Yeah.
as well as really focus on content. And I think that was where I really just fell in love with that creative space and understanding how to really tell a story. And so as I kind of went through that process, my dad started GBS Markful, and that was 30 years ago that he started that. And
Right.
it was never something that he was like, hey, you need to run the business one day. You're my son. You need to do this as a family business type of
Yep.
thing. It was always around the idea of just do whatever you want to do. Like, this is the thing that I love, and this is the thing that I found passionate. And I want to do this, but if you want to do something else, do that. So there was never a weight on me to be,
Yeah.
doing that. And so felt super free to just be able to do whatever I wanted and just kind of like go where my passions were finding me.
Nice.
And then in 2019, my dad passed away from cancer, and ended up finding myself coming back down to San Diego to be closer with my mom, and just was like, all right, I want to try working in the family business and see what that is. So from my marketing background, I stepped into a marketing role there, and did that for about 2 years, I believe. Yeah, 2 years that I was doing that and just helping in all things marketing, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the people that were there. I've known some of them for 15 years. I
Yeah,
knew some of
probably
them
watched you
for
grow up.
Yep, I knew some of them just the very first day that I started as well. So it was kind of a mixed bag of emotions in that, but I just ended up finding the problems there were super fun to me.
Yeah.
The things that we were trying to accomplish and trying to create scale with the business was super exciting. And so, I had the opportunity to be able to step into the president CEO role, and been doing that for about 2 years now. And it's just been a whirlwind of all the things, and
Yeah.
never really thought that I would be in this position or be doing this, growing up. But I've just found to really love it and enjoy it, and, help my family, help all the families that are working there as well.
Yeah.
And it's been super fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Had you worked in it at all through high school, just little odd jobs or anything?
Yeah, I started doing, graphic design in the art department. I punched out magnets for like hours and hours when I was a little kid.
Nice.
I still remember like using my thumb to punch them out, and by the end of the day, my thumb was like I couldn't lift anything. It was just like the experience of working in the warehouse, in the manufacturing floor, I think was super fun, and it just gave me such a sense of like, oh wow, like the people that are doing this repetitious work are so valuable, because you need a human to do some of these things
Yeah.
that you can't just go automate and machine everything. It's so expensive. It's all those things. So I think I just found that those pieces are the heartbeat of what we do, is
Yeah.
making things.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to be really good at, is making the custom products that our customers need.
That's awesome. You said something that you kind of you developed the skill, or you found that you were naturally good at storytelling and really connecting people with a brand. And through that process, you do earn that trust with people when you connect to their story. And has your team, your marketing team that you worked with when you initially got here, and now that you've moved into the president CEO role, continued with that theme through your marketing campaigns? And has that team grown at all in your absence?
Yeah, I would say that my natural way of seeing things is very much from a storytelling type of perspective and very visual as well. And so I think vision is one of the most important things for us as leaders in a business to try to give to our employees, but also to give to the customer as well. And so, yeah, storytelling is a huge part of what we're trying to do within our marketing now. I would say that we've been very product focused. We've been very about, trying to make the goods that we have.
Yeah, just make something and get it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now we're trying to shift again. It's kind of with that brand thing that we've talked about, was creating loyalty and trust and creating a partnership with people,
Yeah.
because we're telling them a story that is, hey, we're your expert, we're your partner when you're thinking printed stuff, custom printed items.
Well, I've just noticed, like, in the marketing space, there's a big, I don't know if it's new, but there's a big push into that storytelling. Because I think people just don't want to be fed another product, another piece of crap. They want to know that you care about it, that it's actually, there is a personal connection between what they're buying and who they are. What's more personal in a brand than selling yourself, like real estate agents, right? I mean, it's their faces all over everything. And so I think it's really cool. It's interesting that people are just now realizing that it matters to connect to that rather than just force feed,
Yeah.
buy more stuff. Here's another product. And I think it's great because I think it adds more value to what people are buying now. And I've learned a lot, actually, even through just your experience of what to focus on in that marketing space. But now in your role, I mean, you're over all the systems, you're not just marketing. What have you found to be the most challenging thing to kind of wrap your arms around in this new position?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most challenging things has been we do so many things and we say yes to a lot of stuff. I think one of the most challenging things for us has been, what are the right things to say no to?
Okay.
And that is a very different concept than what we have done just naturally as a company, because we want to just help people. I think that's what we really are centered around as a company, is helping people. And so whatever it is that they want, we want to help. But to run a business, to run a profitable business, all that, we need to also know where our lane is and know what we're really good at and what we're not very good at. And make sure that the customers that align with us can see that and understand that about us. And so we want to say, this is the thing that we're really good at, that that works for whatever that customer is. So I would say the ability to say no to things has been our biggest challenge for us.
Yeah.
And understanding when that's okay, I guess.
Well, sometimes saying no is helping your client.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was just the marketplace for the last 20 years, but it seemed like everybody in every industry was programmed to just say yes. And it is a hard habit to break. You're like, wait, I'm supposed to say no to work? I thought the goal was more work, more volume. Not if you're after connecting to the brand, not if you're after quality and giving good service. Sometimes the best thing you can do is know your lane, know what you're not great at, and saying no is helpful to the client sometimes, because you're not going to serve them if you can't serve them well.
Yeah, understanding that not every single person is our customer is a good realization, because it is saying hey, if you're looking for this, this is what we do best. I would go somewhere else if you want that, because we are ultimately around making our customers happy, and we're helping them represent themselves. And so I don't think that it is, I think saying no has been looked at as bad a lot of times, especially in business. But
Yeah, but that seems to be shifting. It
yes,
seems to
I
be
agree.
okay to say, "Hey, we're not the best fit."
Hmm.
And I remember in my business, the first time I tried that out, I actually had a really horrible response from the person. They were like upset with me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you don't understand. Like, I really care that your project goes well, and I'm not the
Yes.
best fit. That should like bring you comfort to know like you can find somebody that's going to serve you better
Hmm.
for what you need."
Yeah. Sometimes the most caring thing you could do is to say no
Yeah.
to them.
That's just
Hmm.
that's a new it seems like it's a new shift in at least over maybe the last 4 or 5 years. Maybe the COVID shift. I don't
Hmm.
know. It's I feel like we've learned a lot.
Hmm.
Um and you can't get spread thin,
Hmm.
and I think people got overextended and realized it in that where you had to really boil it down to what are we really good at?
Hmm.
And that focus is so helpful. So you said that that's been one of the most challenging parts, but that's something you've brought to Markful.
Yes. Yeah. I would say that's focus is one of the things that I am really pushing right now, and clarity of focus as well. I
Yeah.
think is such a big thing for us because we have such a yes mentality that um, understanding our target customer, understanding what we do really well is such a big piece to it. And I would say, as for us as leaders too, it is such an important thing to figure out what problems to solve and what problems to say no to and say it's okay that it's a problem right now.
Yeah.
It's not our biggest problem to focus on right now. So I would say that, yeah, the focus has been a big thing that I've been really pushing and trying to unlock the team that we have to be able to focus on the things that they do really
Yeah, I
well.
was gonna say this isn't just for the client's benefit. This is for your team. Like
Hmm.
if you're doing a bunch of stuff you're not great at and you're saying yes to everything, what wear and tear is that putting on the team and the system?
Hmm.
And you guys have a pretty good size team
Hmm.
on site and some remote, or
Correct. Yeah.
and so you really have to consider them. And it seems like some of what you're bringing has also freed people up to focus on what they're good at
Hmm.
and not feel as spread thin, would you
Hmm.
say? Or
Yeah.
have you noticed an impact on your team?
For sure. Yeah. One of the first things I did stepping into this role was try to create clarity in our structure. And that was really just talking to people and trying to really understand what motivates them, what excites them, what is super frustrating about their job, and trying to see where's that sweet spot for them. We want all of our employees to be super happy and to be
Right.
excited to be coming to work. And that's not true every single day, but the goal is, can you make that mostly true? Or make that 80% of the time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the first thing was, all right, like, how can we set you up for success where the thing that you're really good at, that's so unique about what you're offering to the company and to the customer, we're setting you up in the best way that we possibly can. The things that you don't do well, the things that you don't like, how can we take those off? Because those might be someone else's best things that they
Right.
do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that um, yeah, that shift for us of empowerment and of trying to be very transparent, like, hey, I see you doing amazing in this area. Let's try to get you to do more of that.
Yeah.
Or you're so good at this, but you're doing it at a smaller scale. Let's pump you up so that way you can be doing it at a larger scale and be doing stuff for more customers because you're so dang good at this problem solving thing you're
Yeah.
doing. And we want you to have a bigger effect on people as
That's
well.
pretty awesome. Yeah, small business is getting better at uh, employee care.
Hmm.
I think they've had to. We've talked a lot about it on
Hmm.
this show. The labor market has become so competitive.
Hmm.
It's hard to find skilled people in manufacturing and construction and service in general. Um, and so I think it's caused small businesses to up their game.
Hmm.
And I think it's great. It's
Hmm.
pretty cool. I think before it was considered, you know, big corporations cared. It seemed like, or they had programs at least in place to make it seem like they cared.
Yes, yes, yep.
But I think small businesses are always operating on a shoestring budget, and
Hmm.
so it's so hard to have some of those care touch points for your team as a small business, and large corporations seems easy for them from a financial standpoint, but the personal interaction a little bit more difficult. So, I think small business has always done a great job on that one-to-one, but actually coming alongside with the benefit side of it and training and continued education and all that. I mean, when you stepped into this role, you're a relatively young CEO. I think just from what we've had on this show and guys I interact with, you would fit that as, relatively young. How did you feel you had to level up, and what kind of resources did you tap into, and are you tapping into to continue to grow and learn as a leader?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty nerve-wracking stepping into the role.
Yeah.
It was something that, I felt like the problems that were there were really exciting to me. I don't know, I feel like there's something about, when your parent is a certain way, you can sometimes either be the inverse of it or something kind of very similar.
Yeah.
And so I felt like the things that were problems there that my dad left were things that I was good at.
Yeah.
And so I had this confidence of, I think I can go make this happen, but I had no proof that I could do that. And I didn't have this background of here's all the different places I've been CEO and how I can come in and do the exact same thing for this company.
Right.
We're a family small business, and to me, it was so critical for us to be able to give alignment with the family and the business itself to make sure that we're all in this together. And so that was part of the move for us as well, was trying to bring that alignment back. And so, yeah, the first couple of things that we did was definitely find people who can be a coach and a mentor to me.
Awesome.
And how can I use someone that is kind of looking over my shoulder and be able to say, these are the things that I'm thinking about. What do you think? And being able to bounce that off someone that has been there and done that.
Yeah.
And so I immediately got 2 coaches that were, super big helps for me to be able to say, hey, this is the way I'm interpreting this. These are the things in the business that I think are problems. Do you think they're problems? Do you think I should be focusing somewhere else? And just having that second pair of eyes of someone that has been able to be there and done that, I think was super huge for me. And to bounce ideas off of them was awesome. But then also to find my own voice in that as well, where I was like, all right, this is what I'm seeing. This is how I feel about this. And as I got more comfortable in the role and gained more confidence in the role, I was able to really step into that and say, you know what, this is what the team needs, because I'm here every day doing work right alongside them, and being able to find that out. But I would say mentors and coaches are a huge piece of that. I would say just continuing education, just yourself.
Yeah.
So being able to, whether it's watching videos or listening to podcasts or reading books or whatever it is, to increase your just education on it. And I think the most critical thing for me was focusing on the right things at the right time. Not just like, all right, I need to read every business book. Let me just stuff it down my gullet and just try to figure this out.
Force feed it, drinking from a fire hose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was, what is our biggest problem? Identifying that and being like, okay, let me learn about this area and be very specific about diving deep here.
Well, yeah, one thing from the beginning, I felt like you were very clear on. You're great at knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a skill a lot of people like undervalue and are missing, because they just assume, well, I'm in this position, I'm supposed to be good at everything. Yeah, but it's impossible to be good at everything.
Yep.
So you got to surround yourself with a great team. That's key. And I know you said you guys were doing that. And then coaching is critical at all phases for anybody, because I mean, we even see incredible elite athletes, they still have a coach.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, of course, you need some outside observer that's not too close to it to be able to, critique and poke a little bit and say, hey, maybe try this. It's still, like you said, I love the way you said that, your own voice. Because you got dropped off into I kind of have this image, because a small business, as a founder, you get to grow incrementally.
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, I'm like, if you picked me up, the guy that started this company, and you just moved forward in time and dropped me off into right now, I'd drown.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what happened to you in a way.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing the way you've been able to surround yourself with the support, level up, and also be very patient with yourself too
Mm-hmm.
in settling into this new role
Mm-hmm.
and making the changes that you have and being able to steer this and now have the confidence that you're like, no, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing. It's got to feel good.
Yeah, I think it does feel good, but I also know that I cannot take all that credit because it is the structure and some of the things that are in place that were already there
Yeah.
is, I feel like, what I'm standing on top of.
Of course.
And so
Yeah.
it's all the things that are that were put into place. The people that we have are just awesome. And so to have all of that together and then to be able to step in and say, here's where I can help and here's where I can try to push the business, I think was a huge part of that for sure. But
Yeah.
it was definitely something that I had to learn really quick and had to jump into. And I'm still in process. Like
Yeah.
I'm still in the middle of all of that, of, you know, learning more about myself and how to lead and how to grow and how to help my team as well. So
Yeah.
it definitely is. It doesn't feel like I've been, you know, I've done it or I've gotten there, or this moment of like, all right, I made it happen and now I can
Sure.
relax. It is very much we're in the depths of it and we're trying to still figure it out, which to me is the most exciting time. Like,
yeah, there's
that
no
is the
finish
moment that
line
is
though, right?
awesome.
There's
Yep.
no finish line.
Yes.
So, yeah, I guess you're right in saying like there's not going to be a point where you're like, there, I did it,
Mm-hmm.
because you can say there, I did it for a time.
Yep.
But there's always new challenges, and the goal is not to be stagnant; it's to
Mhm.
grow. And so, you're gonna, as soon as you get comfortable, you're gonna make yourself uncomfortable again with new growth and challenges.
Yes. Yep.
You're not gonna just sit there. So that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I get that you're coming into a very strong support system, but people can take that for granted and just kind of hide behind it
Mm.
and ride the coattails of it. And I guess from what I've seen is that's not what you've done. I mean, you've leveraged it. You've definitely taken advantage of it, but you've built on top of it already. And so I think that's what's pretty cool. You know, I always wonder, because for me, I'm trying to control the work-life balance and not having the stress of business leadership, you know, that responsibility
Yeah.
spill over, and then outside life already has its own stuff. What kind of changes have you experienced in this time since you lost your dad and you moved, which that by itself is a big deal to relocate? What other changes have occurred in your life?
Yeah. So the last 4 or 5 years have been a wild ride for
Yeah.
sure. So I moved down to San Diego after my dad passed away. That was a couple months after, and then started working at Markful, and then I then very recently after that got engaged and then got married a couple months or
Yeah.
9 months or whatever it is after that. And
Oh, my
then
goodness.
before we got married, we bought a house, and then we just had a kid as well. So it all happened within the last 4-year span, and it's been just a wild time to be going through all these big events.
Yeah.
And, you know, my daughter now is 10 months old, and she's amazing, and I love her, and it's just been so awesome. But it has been doing that many big things of, you know, I think within 1 year, I had, like, we had purchased our house, we got married, and we had a kid.
Yeah.
All 3 things within a 1-year span. And it was madness. It was crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That along with the new role, right? 'Cause
Along with the new role. Yes. Yep.
which is
all 4 of them in the same year.
that's
Yep.
a lot.
Yep.
So, I mean, how do you manage? What's your stress management, life like? I mean, or do you have anything that you do to try and mitigate it, or?
I I would like to say that I have something, but I don't have much. I just trying to figure it out along the way. Yeah, when all those big moments were happening,
Yeah.
it was awesome. They were all amazing things.
Mhm.
Like those things were incredible. Like to get married, to like find my wife, to find a home that we love, to like have a daughter expected on the way. Like those are all awesome things.
Yeah.
And like when they were happening in that moment, it was like amazing. Like I loved it. Like there wasn't a ton of stress for me built up around those specific events.
Sure.
I think that being a year ago now, this year, I would say the result of those things
Yeah.
of, learning how to take care of a home, learning how to be a husband, learning how to be a father, and continuing to learn how to be a CEO president. Um, all of those things put together, that's where the stress comes in for
Yeah.
sure,
Uh-huh.
is the result or the, management of those things. So, yeah, now with the sleepless nights and the things that randomly go wrong at the house or, just those moments in work where it's just super stressful or frustrating or things that are just out of your control that you have to deal with.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think one of the things that we talked about was trying to create your group or your circle that is surrounding you that is about the stress relief, or it's about you just making sure you're healthy, making sure that
Yeah.
you're doing the right things. And so,
Yeah, because
like,
what
it's
you're
been
talking
hard.
about is, um, it's almost like you were riding the adrenaline rush,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so it's always when you come down,
Yes.
and it's the sustainability because this is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Marathon.
So great, the you came out the gate fresh and excited and happy and
I
ready
was
to rock.
running I was sprinting for the first couple miles,
Yes.
and then the wall hit.
Uh-huh. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, maybe it's more something to be aware of and prepare for years and down the road. I always hear guys talk about how they would go for a year or two or three just super hard.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy in here who was saying like he committed when he started his business to working 80 hours a week for the first 2 years or year and a half, I think it was. And I've talked to guys that do that. They're like, nope, this is just what I got to do. And some of them do it for
Yeah.
longer,
Yeah.
5 years, 10 years. I'm
Yeah.
like, you just missed your kids.
Yeah.
It's so finding that some sort of routine. And the reason why I think about it and talk about it is I think when I was younger and going through raising a young family and trying to grow a business, investing in houses and working just nonstop, I thought I was invincible. I'm like, I can do this forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm doing it great. And then I find out, no, I'm not doing it great because
Yeah.
slowly the cracks form and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, wait, the system's under so much pressure. And then steam starts to come out those cracks and you're like, it's fine. And you try
Yeah.
and I think I found, I want to say, fortunately, soon enough before anything crazy broke in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really close to a full breakdown.
Yeah.
Just realizing my limits
Mm.
and finding a natural way to identify what needs to be pushed through and for a season and shorter seasons than I think I can do. Because I think I can do anything. I think I noticed that from a lot of business leaders. It's like, dude, they're high output, high capacity people that don't think they need help from anybody. And then until they blow up.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm like, your dad was part of that group that helped me realize it. Other friends that would kind of give words of caution and, you think you're doing the right things, taking care of your health and diet and, getting business coaches and stuff like that. But I always ask because I just think people in leadership tend to think they're the ones that don't need help. So more and more I'm seeing people being way more open to the coaching.
Yeah.
It's way more normal now to have people pouring into you, having support groups for that, and not having to go it alone.
Yeah.
And I see that in you and what you've been doing. So maybe a good part of your system is already in place.
Mm.
You know.
Yeah, I think that there is, when you have some of these terrible events that may happen in people's lives, and for me it was my father passing away. I think those moments you really start to realize how precious time is and how important um, being with your family or being with people that you love
Yeah.
is. And so I think when I stepped into this role, one of the things that my mom and my sister was super scared of was some of the 80-hour weeks, just working crazy hours. And
Yep.
I think there's times where, yes, that may be needed and all that. But for me, it was not something that I felt that I was willing to sacrifice. That was to build a business, to make more money. Like I would like trading that for time with my daughter, to be able to like watch her grow, to be there at 5 o'clock and not be there at 9 or 10 or
Yeah.
whatever it is, I think was such a big thing that is the reason why I feel more sustainable with what I'm doing and have all these big events, is because I want to take that time, because I think it's the realization of like you'll never get there. Like you'll never be,
Yeah.
it'll never be like, all right, now I don't have anything to do and I can just relax when you're in business. And so I think Simon Sinek is someone that I really love following and watching and all that. And it's the idea of the endless game, and that it will never be finished. And you'll never be number one. You'll never be, the game is never over.
Man, I wish, I don't know where you found that. I wish I knew that in my 20s, because I would regularly catch myself saying, after this project,
Yeah.
after this investment, then it'll get easier.
Yeah.
And I mean, in some ways it did, because you gained experience and you grew your capacity, kind of like, working out or something. It's like,
Yeah.
eventually the 25s get easy, so you move up to the 30s. In some ways that happened, but you also add complexity to it through sometimes your own adding complexity, or life, like adding kids or whatever. And I definitely believed that there was a finish line, and I was racing as hard as I could towards it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool that you have that input already, and you recognize that, because that's now where I'm at, where I go, yeah, there's no finish line. So just settle into it and enjoy this whole process.
Yeah. Sustainability and balance, I think, are two such crucial things, because like how you are with your employees or whatever it is, that has a huge effect on them. And so if you're able to, this term I heard was about leading yourself. If you're able to lead yourself well, and you're able to take care of yourself, then you can lead others well.
Yeah.
But you can't lead others well if you're not doing it for yourself.
That's
first.
super cool.
So I think the realization of you'll never finish is a great one, because you can then be settled into it and be like, all right, like, what do I want my life to look like now?
Yeah.
Not what do I want my life to look like 5 years from now, because of all the work I'm doing, whatever. And I think there's moments where you have to push super hard in those seasons, but I just think it should be less time than more time. You should always try to lean on that side of things. And, obviously some people don't get that luxury and you don't be able to do that, but it is something that I am definitely striving to do, is to find that balance and to live for right now, because you just realize how precious time is, and wanting to be there in those moments. And, coming home to my wife and my daughter and being able to experience life with them, and, the stresses at work, I'm still trying to figure out how to, have that drive home be something that is decompressing, and that is when I get home, I'm present and I'm there. And that's definitely something I still struggle with. So, and all of this to me still very much in process, trying to figure out what that is. But that's just the direction that I've seen that I'm trying to head. And that's because I've had people like you, people like my dad and other mentors that have tried to illustrate that and have realized that. And so I just think you get to stand on top of the shoulders of the people that you're closest to, which is such a huge part of being able to try to have some of those realizations potentially earlier, or try not to have so much of the pain as you're going through that. But it's something that is definitely a priority for me. For
That's
sure.
cool. Yeah, because I've been hearing some young men, one of them being my youngest son, but a group of
Yeah.
young guys right now, they're all trying to make up time, because they have this idea of like, there is a finish line. They're at that age that if they do enough, they can arrive sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because the question always comes up like, what I get asked all the time, what would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self to change? And I'm going, man, the whole point is the bumps and bruises along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think this is kind of that. I don't know about you. What would you go back and tell your 16-year-old self?
Yeah, I mean, I think at a young age, I was like at this age, which felt super long from now, 24 years old, I
Yeah.
will have this, this, and this figured out, and I'll have a home and a wife and kids and all these different things.
Yep.
And then you get to that age and you have none of those.
Right.
And you're just like, okay, like now this is the age or whatever.
Right.
And so I think I've always set not necessarily goals, but just expectations for myself. And then when you hit those or don't hit those, you just realize how you just keep moving forward and it's about the next thing, whatever it is. So I think it's almost that just like, hey, it's all right. Like go through your process and be present
Yeah.
and just experience life the way you have it now,
Yeah.
because it is actually fleeting. Like the stuff that, in college or right after college, the work that I did and where I was in life was super fun. Like there were things about that time in my life that I loved, and I'm so happy where I am now, but I won't be able to experience those again, most
Right.
likely. And so
Right.
it's just being present, I
Be in
think,
the moment.
is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And not expecting and waiting and like saying, all right, what's next?
Yeah.
And anticipating that rather than being present.
There's a big difference between having expectations for yourself and setting goals.
Yeah.
Goals, I think, you try and achieve those
Mm-hmm.
by charting out a path. Like, how am I going to get there? And I think that's great, but you have to have some leeway on that. Whereas if you're just like, well, I just assume, I expect that when I get to this age, I'll just automatically have this stuff.
Yes. Yep.
That
You'll
is
have it figured out.
Yeah,
Yep.
that is a big difference. But also, like, I think it's important to share with some of these young guys too. It's like if they only live for today, then tomorrow could potentially suck because
Yeah.
you didn't consider.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
consider the old man, but
Yeah.
don't live for the old man.
Yep.
That's kind of how I
Yeah,
feel.
that's
It's
a great
like,
point.
do your adventure. Go learn life and enjoy your youth, but don't totally disregard the fact that you do need to have some goals and a path.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't just say I want this and then just expect you're going to age into
Mm-hmm.
it. It's both and. I think be present, but also consider the long term. I don't know. But I don't see a ton of that. I see everybody's just expecting.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh no.
Well, when things now are just like so at your fingertips and you're just like, all right, like they're doing it. They have it on social media that they made it, whatever made it may be.
Yeah.
And so you think that it should just arrive, like you should just arrive there sometimes. And
Yeah.
you should put the work in and then boom, you're there. And it's just like some people put a ton of work in and never get there. And that's life a lot of times. But I think it was the realization of just being able to accept the process and be, yes, the plans and the goals are all amazing things, but to enjoy the process. If you can figure out how to enjoy the process, I think that's such a big thing rather than enjoying when you hit the goal or hit the milestone. It's like, yeah, that's a cool moment, but it's a moment. The whole process is, I mean, it's your entire life. And so I think that was a big thing is every decade or year of my life, I've always just been like, all right, at this point, I will like get there. I will know what I need to know. I'll be it. And at that moment that I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure it out. So it's like every year you realize that you are still just figuring it out. all along the way.
Forever.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's the whole thing that's so great, though, is like if we have this pouring into the next generation, kind of, I lean into guys in their 50s and 60s right now, and, but then like pour into the 20 somethings so that like, and they're not going to believe or take everything we say because they're going to figure it out for themselves. But if you can just give them those little thought models, those little things that they can go, oh, that's what they were talking about. And maybe it helps them process it a little sooner. But for sure, I mean, in business, that's the tension, right? It's like where we are and where we want to go. And that's part of the fun is that, can we do it?
Yeah.
And it's that playground of like anything's possible. And so setting goals in business, setting goals in life, it's that tension between those two spaces and you closing that gap. That's the fun, because when you get there, what do? You just set another goal.
Yep.
You don't stop and be like, okay, cool, we're done.
Yeah.
I always look at our goals and I'm like, guys, these goals, it's like our scoreboard, right? It's really just telling us, are we moving?
Yes.
Are we improving? And we're going to mess up along the way, and we're going to make game time changes because it's like, oh, what we thought was going to work doesn't. And so we're constantly iterating and going through that growth process that I never want to end. Like, I love the growth. There's times that you want things to consolidate and just like let it soak in. You can't change constantly because it's painful sometimes. But, I think it's really cool when those spurts happen and then you kind of let them settle in. You're kind of in that spurt season. If there's other kids in the future, if there's, expansion and stuff in your life, it's going to continue to happen in this next season. But what do you look forward to in these coming years? What's next, and what are you kind of looking forward to just continuing in right now?
Yeah, I would say some of the goals that we have of becoming more scalable with what we're doing and being able to build that trust and loyalty with our customers is definitely a big part of what I'm looking forward to, is like, can we do that in a meaningful way?
Yeah.
And we've already come so far to get where we're at now, but there's, some of the goals, revenue goals that we have, big things that we want to be able to accomplish that are some of those next things that I'm really excited about. And is it working? Are we moving? Is the trajectory changing for us?
Yeah.
And so I would say it's the feedback that I'm looking for that is going to be really interesting, because we have this idea, we have this direction that we're heading, and will it turn out? Like, will it go the right direction for us as we keep moving? And I think that's part of the excitement of it, is when you don't know. And like, you don't look back on, someone's story and be like, all right, like they figured it out. So like when they were figuring out, they felt super confident in it. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen. So like whether or not it's going to work or not is going to be really interesting to like uncover. But it is super exciting to be in this process.
Yeah.
And so I think a little bit of feedback is one of the things that I'm really excited for. But then just
Feedback
to continue
on
to
what?
improve.
Like your kind of leader? Are you looking at this as like, that's how you'll know if the impact you've had is doing something? Is that?
I would say it's feedback from customers, is feedback from the team that we have as well.
Okay.
To say like, all right, like this is the direction that we're heading, and how is this aligning everyone? How is this bringing everyone together? Are people confused? Are people understanding the vision of what we're trying to create? And so I think there's a lot of building, a lot of like putting stuff on paper right now. And so to get that, like, and the feedback could also be, we're hitting targets.
You want
know what I mean?
reality to give you feedback.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
like, okay, we're operating in theory.
Yes.
Which I tell everybody, I'm like, all the stuff you do, I mean, your strategy and everything, you're like, I think this is what's going to work.
Yeah.
And then the results are whether
work?
did it work?
Yeah.
And you have to wait a little while to find that out.
Yep.
That's that tension that I'm talking about. That's pretty fun, but it sometimes takes a while to get that feedback.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like you always think it's going to come faster than it does. You're like, all right,
Yeah.
like it'll take 6 months or 3 months for it
We'll
to
know
like happen.
something. Yeah.
And being 2 years in, you're like, all right, like we've done some things and it's made some improvements and we've been able to do things, but a lot of stuff just moves slower than you actually think it does.
Yeah.
And it takes longer and it takes more work than you think it does as well. So I think when you look back at people's stories, you can be like, all right, yeah, they worked super hard and in their story it was 1 year and you don't think about it that much. But like a year of doing one thing and being super focused on that is a long time, and that's a lot of effort on something very detailed.
Yeah.
And so like you have to go through those stages and you have to go through that process though to be able to get on the other side where you're like, all right, that did work. We did get some feedback. Now let's just keep moving and keep improving.
Yeah. So market feedback's important, and it seems like, we're having an administration change. I don't know if you guys have noticed any meaningful difference already since, you have an election cycle end. People are not so focused on that, and then maybe anticipating some of the impact that future administration will have. Are you guys anticipating any changes or impact? And if so, like, what are you guys doing now, if anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're so tied to the real estate market, and it's been pretty stagnant the last year. It's been really slow. There's been certain settlements that have happened over the course of the last year, as well as just the stagnation of the market and houses not moving all that much. It wasn't like it was in COVID, and so yeah, we're already feeling the consolidation that the market is doing within specific companies. And so we felt that this entire year. And I think there's just been a lot of anticipation and there's a lot of like questions. And I think more than anything, whatever like change presidential or even the settlement that happened, it is about the anticipation of those things rather than what it actually is, I think a lot of the times. Because when that change does happen, people adjust, people evolve, people will figure out what makes sense for them and how they'll improve and how they'll grow based on their new realities. And so I think for us, there was, after the election, minor things that we felt like we saw that was an improvement for us based off of just people not thinking about the election. Distraction is probably a big part of that.
Right.
But then interest rates starting to drop slightly, some excitement or some positive thoughts, I would say, towards the future. I think we've all been guarded the last year of, is there a recession? When is it coming? Is it going to happen?
Right.
And I feel like we've started to turn the corner slightly where we're like, okay, we think this next year might be an okay year. And we'll start to move that direction.
Yeah.
But tariffs is a big wrench that will probably get thrown in that we're not sure exactly how we will be able to react to those things.
Yeah.
Because we do purchase some things outside, but it's all material based. And it's those things that we're like, okay, magnet, for example, like we purchase a bunch of magnet and some of it comes from overseas, some of it comes from here. And we'll have to see how we, how those tariffs interact with those things
And
and
how
what
you
changes
adjust.
we'll have to make.
Yeah. So, but you said you kind of do look at your outlook as more positive. I think a lot of people would echo that. I think that they're looking at the future as more business friendly, which is critical. You need people to be willing to take risk. Businesses are taking risks all the time. And so they need to know that there's a reward for that risk. And, that's the incentive. Otherwise, why do it, right? And so I think a lot of people are saying, yeah, we want to try and grow and expand. Of course, who doesn't? But I think that there's seasons to do it in, even politically or, economically, seasons to do that in. And you're right, the apprehension that's been sitting there, I feel like everybody's been waiting for the sky to fall, and it hasn't. And now they're not only not waiting anymore, but now they're thinking it's not going to. And so we've noticed a difference. Of course, a tick down in interest rates helps. I think people wanting to go and do a project rather than hold off helps. You know, a lot of people were deferring, like you're saying. Um, but it's interesting how policies do make a difference in how we plan as business leaders
Mm-hmm.
and how we expand. And strategically, it seems like a lot of people are planning expansion, but there's these little things that people are unsure of, like you're saying, tariffs. And I wonder though if it's going to create some sort of new, unique problem-solving solution
Mm-hmm.
that may even improve everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've just seen it in the past, and I kind of, rather than, because I used to get discouraged by like, oh, we're changing something, and then I find out that forced change actually improved overall.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, thank goodness that happened. You know, you hit something, it makes you stronger, you go around it, over it, whatever. Is that what you guys are looking for right now? Is like maybe something that could be a more beneficial long-term solution than and protect yourself from maybe these tariffs being an obstacle? Or are you thinking you're just going to adapt to the tariff?
I think that we would definitely look at some other options for us of what makes sense for us as a business, and
Yeah.
whether there's more things that we make in-house or not. I mean, 90% of the stuff that we do is all made in-house, but some of the material that we get is from overseas. And so there is that portion that we'll need to be careful of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is definitely trying to see what else could we do, because I think we just settle in like, this is what we've done, so let's just keep doing it.
Right.
And so it will force us, if it does happen, for us to have to navigate potentially new relationships or new ideas that weren't possible before. So yeah, I think any change is going to either it will force some good things and some bad things probably.
Yeah.
And so for us, we'll always just try to figure out like what's the smartest thing for us right now, and how much do we invest in it, how much do we not, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's still very much a decision that we're going to evaluate as it comes through as well, because there's so many different factors at play.
Sure. I don't know if anybody has an idea of like timeline when we think these things will actually impact us. I mean, construction and manufacturing are tied so close together, you know, because we consume so many products.
Yeah.
When we're building a house, a building of any type. And so I know a lot of our materials are going to be affected as well. I noticed, I don't know, maybe it was COVID, I don't recall. There was some sort of shortage. I think it was plastic. So maybe it was COVID. Everybody was scrambling for plastic.
Yep.
And we couldn't find electrical boxes to like, frame, you know, when you're building the house, to put in light switches and outlets and stuff you need.
Yeah.
Nobody had it. And we're like, oh, shoot, I guess we got to stop here. We can't keep moving without them.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not responsible for the manufacturing side of it. We're just the end user. And so we're not going and sourcing new material. We're waiting for our vendors to source it. So I don't deal with that unique challenge unless we have to go around it, which is something kind of unusual for us to go around our vendors. But you being direct, I mean, you guys make stuff right here. You guys are, I mean, building these products on site here locally. And so it's pretty amazing, and it affects you directly and more immediately. Do you anticipate, like, do you know of when you think the stuff is supposed to hit, or?
I don't have a sense fully of it. No, I think there's, with just anticipation, I think there's already stuff starting to happen.
Okay.
Just the container costs and all that kind of stuff, like coming from China right now. And so there's things that we will have to adapt to, or prices that will go up, or whatever.
Sooner than later.
Sooner than later.
Just based on anticipation.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
And so there's some of that is happening, but it's not to extreme extent right now. But that market does ebb and flow. I feel like very similar to the stock market, where it's built on emotion sometimes.
Yeah.
And you're really trying to figure out like how does everyone feel about this thing, which is a wild idea when you're talking about materials and pricing and all that kind of stuff
That
to
it's
go along with
feeling.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're just like, what is happening? But I mean, there's very much realities in that of the number of things that are coming through right now versus this time last year or whatever it is as well. So
Sure.
yeah, I think for us, we'll be able to evolve pretty quickly because of all the things that we do in house. And we have a signs division, an apparel division, a small format division, a special format, which we do more like promo items and awards and all that kind of stuff. So we do have the ability to be very nimble with what we're doing, which is a huge advantage for us, and a thing that we're super grateful to be able to have is our ability to adapt, because print is such an interesting thing, and a lot of people think about print dying and that it is going away, but I think print is just evolving and it's just changing over time, and the products we're doing now we didn't do 10 years ago, and that are like massive divisions for us we didn't do 10 years ago.
That's
at all.
amazing.
And so it's just about our ability to evolve to what the needs are, because I mean, you think about print, you sit in a restaurant, you sit in anything, and you will notice how many things are actually printed. And especially in a digital world where you just got ads popping up all over the place, sometimes something tangible and something physical can break, the scroll, and can actually get something noticed and actually get something in your hand that is not, the next moment another pop-up is happening.
Yeah.
And so I think there's something about being super tangible that is exciting, that is connecting for people. And so it's something that we're used to, is having to evolve. And so whatever comes next, we're just going to continue to evolve. And I think that's one thing that I always very much rest in when big things happen, big changes happen, stress happens, whatever it is our ability as a company. And my drive is just like, well, I'm just not going to give up.
Yeah.
Whatever like the thing is, I'm just not going to like say, oh, well, I guess we got to shut down business, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah, you're not wired that way.
I'm not wired that way. I'm just like, all right, well, let's adapt. Let's figure out what's next for us.
Your demeanor as a leader is actually very calming and reassuring. And so, I mean, with you at the helm, the future of I'll get the business name right, Markful, is very bright. I mean, there's no doubt with that attitude that, of course, you're just gonna evolve and grow with it. So, I mean, yeah, I'm just always curious what people's thought process is and how it impacts their planning and how much power do you give it. And I think, I mean, you have a very tempered approach to it, and I think it's great, and it's good to hear, because there's a lot of guys that are wired differently and they're a little more high strung about it and getting wrapped around the axle. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, I was kind of there back, 4 or 5 years ago when all the crazy changes, and I'm just like, oh yeah, we've been here, we've dealt with stuff crazier, and I mean, we're still here,
Yeah, one of my things that my dad used to say that I love repeating is obstacles are oh man, I lost it.
You'll get it. You'll get it. It's because you like jinxed yourself. You're like, I love repeating this.
Obstacles are something irrelevant. Like, I mean, the idea is that obstacles are always going to be there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like those things will come in, and it's just like, cool, let's go do it. Like, let's go figure it out, because that's the one thing you can count on.
Is that there's going to be challenges.
There's going to be challenges.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like people that are like, I don't want any problems in my business. And all we deal with as leaders is problems. And so, I mean, I think if there were no problems, I would probably be unemployed, because people could do it without me, which, no, I mean, that's just kind of, I don't know, something I heard somewhere. Your job is to solve problems and, find the bottleneck and relieve it and just keep going through. And so you almost get trained practiced at, there's no problem
Mhm.
because you're literally schooled in solving it, and so you already know it's only a matter of time before you solve this.
Yep.
You already know there's a solution, and now it's time to roll up your sleeves and figure it out.
Obstacles are irrelevant and something. I can't even
feel
come
like we
up
could-
with the word.
You know what?
Inevitable.
Inevitable.
Obstacles are inevitable and irrelevant. That's the saying
Wow.
that we used to say, because it's realizing that there will always be there, and that you're just gonna be like, all right, let's jump on to the next one and let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know too. For me, and maybe this isn't helpful for everybody, but I know the realization that one of my favorite books in the Bible is Ecclesiastes, because it talks about how this it doesn't matter in a way, and it kind of frees you up. It doesn't make you feel hopeless. It actually gives you freedom, and it basically just says time and chance is going to happen to everybody. You can't. I mean, like a storm comes in and wipes out an entire town. It's like, who predicted that? And then it's devastating. And then, something new grows out of it. And you're just like, yeah, nobody can plan these things. Nobody can know exactly. All you can do is try and prep and have your system ready to, problem solve and have your team and everything set up to where when the timing is right, you're there. What is that saying? We're gonna forget all kinds of sayings.
All the sayings are going out the window today.
There's one. There's one. It's like success is when preparation and opportunity meet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's something like
It's
that.
something like that.
So-
It's close enough.
But that's where I get that, like, time and chance happens to everything. That doesn't mean it's all luck. It just means that, like, you can be right but early. You can be right but late. And it will eventually come around again. And so I don't know. All these things for me is just like, it's putting less emphasis on every little thing and more the big picture, and just keep moving.
Yeah. Yeah, you can work really hard and have almost nothing change.
Yeah.
And then you can work really hard and have tons of things change in a positive way. And so it's when those things become like they connect all the dots and it works super well. And when they don't, sometimes it's chance, it's luck, it's opportunity, it's all those things.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the main thing is constantly working hard
Yeah.
to try to make whenever that moment hits, that you get to take advantage of it.
Yep. Yeah, because like we'll start a job in the winter, and one winter it's dry. Like right now, I mean, we haven't had any rain, right?
Yeah.
And then another winter, it rains for 6-8 weeks right after we trench, and our footings and trenches are full of water and mud, and the job's just sitting, all the materials getting worked, and we have to redig, and we lose thousands of dollars, and we're just like, why? Well, it rained.
Yeah.
And the job's 2 months behind. Why? Well, it rained.
Yeah.
I don't control the rain. And yet you don't not do it.
Yeah.
You just don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's an overly simplistic example, but I apply that through so many things, whether, you buy a new machine, you add new staff, you roll something new product out or whatever it is, or service. And so you're like, we just go.
Yeah.
We just move.
And I think too, you accept the risk and you just realize that it's there, and it's not a reason to not do something, because you know that it will always happen. Like
Yes.
it will rain, it will whatever the problem or challenge is, and then we will overcome it.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that I'm trying to rest in, is like, what if we do this thing and it's not right? Well, then I'll just keep working to try to figure out what is right.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
not get stuck,
The
because I'm like,
perseverance
I
of
don't
it.
know where, like, what is the right answer? It's like, I don't know. There could be 1,000 things, and and some of them are all right and some of them are all wrong.
Yeah.
And so just continuing to work to try to figure it out and just keep pushing it.
Dude, I love I love your perspective. You're a breath of fresh air in some of these arenas because of that, and your fresh eyes, fresh outlook, And, maybe 20 years from now, you'll be in here saying, no, it's all bullshit. I don't know. But right now,
I'll change everything about myself. We'll
It's
see.
great.
Who
It's great.
knows?
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come
course.
in here and chat. And you have the distinction,
Distinct pleasure.
the pleasure of being our biggest guest on the show. I just wanted to make sure we noted that.
Biggest guess? You mean like by height or by like?
Most important. No, by height. Yes. No. Anyways, all right, man. Well, thank you.
Of course.
We'll do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
It was
man.
awesome chat.
Yeah.
There you go.
See ya.
See ya.